You want to see something cool? Check this out. That's the overflow valve. The rafts always overinflate, and that's something that people freak out about, but now you won't because you saw it here.
Yay! How cool! Oh, it looks like a little house, huh?
Well, that's step one, is to inflate the life raft. Step two is to see what it's like inside the life raft.
Yes!
Okay, now that it's inflated, we're gonna jump inside and show you what it's like inside the life raft and some of the features. You ready, Nicole?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
Wow! It's cold.
Doesn't look cold.
This one wave, I feel like this could totally tip you over.
Especially if you try to get into it with the wind blowing from the other side.
Yeah.
You can see how it would catch. The strongest person will go in first so that they can help pull the other people into the raft. Is that your first time ever in a life raft?
Yeah, it is.
What's your first impression?
Actually, I thought it would be kind of hard to tug on it and to deploy it, and it didn't really take a lot of effort.
Just tug a little bit and it works?
Yeah. Ay, ay, ay.
These life rafts were not made by women.
No. Okay, let's get you in.
Okay.
So.
Did you get that?
No.
Okay, good.
You actually should be pretty good to grab this. It's actually really convenient. Maybe not be on the edge. Success!
Yeah, you did it!
I'm in. But Nicole, what happens if the raft does tip over?
You're screwed!
No, you're not, because you can ride it back right side up again.
So what are you gonna do? Flip it over?
I don't know, maybe I'm trying. Help me.
Oh no!
Come on. So it's actually kind of hard to tip once it's fully inflated. The waves and the wind can do it, but two fully grown mature adults can't. In fact, it's so stable that even if I stand on it on the very edge and lean over with all my weight, it still won't tip.
Wow!
That's because there's big bags on the bottom called ballast bags, which help give it stability and keep it from drifting.
Oops, there he goes.
Okay, so these are the ballast bags I was telling you about. They're weighted on the bottom with lead weights so that they hang down low, fill with water, and make it super, super stable. This is the tank that actually filled it in the first place. And when the raft is capsized, what you're supposed to do is use this handle here to climb up on the raft, stand on the tank, and then lean back to flip it over, like Nicole will now demonstrate. And look how easy that was.
That's really easy.
Yeah, really easy.
Wow.
But now that it's right side up and the bags are filled, crawl underneath it and try to push it up and see if you can flip it back over.
Oh.
Super hard, right?
Yes. Wow.
And that's how you right a raft.
Yoo-hoo.
This one was easier. Normally it's a little harder. One way you can get in actually is when you get to here. If it's when you're standing on the ramp, is just to put your head down and you can actually roll into the raft like that. It's easier to do that when you have like a life jacket on than it is to crawl sometimes over the thing. Okay, let's show you around the inside of our new home.
It would get really hot in here in about 10 seconds in the tropics. There needs to be better ventilation.
Well,
I mean, this is awesome because you're out of the sun, but it's like, I don't know, 75, 78 degrees right now outside, and it's really warm in here, and it would get stuffy very quickly. This would not be cool to live in for a while.
When you go into a life raft, there's all kinds of weird things that you don't know what they are at first. Like, for example, I don't really know what this is.
It's a plug.
Yeah, but what's it plug? Who knows? But you'll notice that there's somewhere there'll be instructions. So these instructions say to cut the painter line. What's the painter line? The painter line is the line or rope that connects the life raft to the boat. How do you cut it? You use the knife. And if you look, all life rafts will have a knife.
Look, it even says knife.
What does the second instruction say, Nicole?
It says throw safety. What's that?
That's the one I didn't know, that weird word. Quad or quo or something. It's like a throw line.
Anybody know what that is? I don't know what that is.
It's this thing.
To survivors.
It's this thing.
It's the little life ring. Ooh, he's very little.
Yeah.
Wow, tiny.
So this should already be coiled. Just take off the rubber bands. This is what you use to get people who are drifting, because this life raft will drift and there's seas and people are tired and freaked out and it's hard to swim in a life jacket. You can go look at our overboard video and get a feel for that. But you take this little frisbee looking thing and you chuck it out at them. That was a bad throw because I dropped the whole thing. And then you can help pull them in with that.
Oh.
What's the next step?
Next step says move away from sinking ship.
Now we are going to demonstrate to you just how effective these paddles are in actually moving this life raft away from shit.
I want to see this.
Okay, we're actually moving a little bit. But imagine that the boat is over there and I have to go that way. What are the odds of that really happening well? Close to zero.
Yep.
So it makes sense when you're launching this life raft, take into consideration what are the waves doing, what are the winds doing, so that you can actually get away from the boat when it goes down. Because if this life raft is entangled in the rigging when your boat goes down, you're going down with it.
Wow.
That's the third thing.
We did it. Fourth thing now.
Fourth thing.
Stream the sea anchor.
Okay, so the sea anchor should be somewhere really easily accessible. Usually it's outside.
Where is the sea anchor? I thought I saw it on the outside.
It should be on the outside. Maybe it's on this side.
Yeah, but how would you access it? Is that a ventilation thing?
That's theoretically.
That literally, that's for your head?
Yeah. So you can look around, stay dry. We're sitting in a swimming pool, totally calm, not scared, not freaked out, just chilling. In reality, there's a lot more to surviving in a life raft than we're gonna cover in this video, even if I was qualified to talk about that. But definitely you should take the time to read the literature that came with your own life raft, watch some videos, or even better, there's a great class you can take. It used to be called STCW 95. It's a class that any maritime academy, or it's a great class. It's got 1 day of firefighting, 1 day of life raft survival. It has, just this sort of stuff. And if you're gonna head offshore, they're good skills to have. Even though the class is tailored often towards bigger ships, a lot of the stuff applies to smaller boats as well. Okay, so let's see what we have in our grab bag. These are strips of duct tape. If I were you and I was in the life raft, I would try to make sure I saved those.
All right, what do we have in here?
Well, there's gonna be flares, there's gonna be rations, there's gonna be repair stuff.
Whoa!
First of all, what do you think these are?
It's foam.
What's it for? This is a sponge. You can use it to very, very slowly, with a lot of effort, get the water out, in theory.
So at least you have something that you can get the water out with, because I am sitting in a pool of water.
Life rafts make her wet.
Gosh, carry on.
Bunch of water. Do we have any food? What's more important, water or food?
Water.
By far. Instructions inside a plastic pouch. That's really good. Okay, this is extremely important in a life raft. What do you think this is?
Barf bags.
These are barf bags. One of the very first things you should do when you get into a life raft is you should take the seasickness pills. Those should be in your grab bag. A lot of times they come with the raft. And so if you can't get that pill on board quick enough, or you don't have any, at least you can have some barf bags.
And if you have your barf bag, you can then use it as chum, and then you can fish.
That was really smart. Now, the only problem with your theory is that you have a bag of barf on a hot life raft. So, okay, so other stuff that's in here. These are the flares. In this case, we have two. These are called parachute flares. These are SOLAS parachute flares. Now, these ones expired 6 years ago. This is a lot of times when you have to get a Life Raft recertified, what you're paying for is the tank being tested, and you're a lot of times paying for the flares and the food and stuff like that that expired. Obviously they test the fabric and the seams and stuff, but a lot of times this is the limiting factors. And these should be smoke flares. Does anybody know the difference between SOLAS flares and just regular flares?
Yes, SOLAS flares do not drip on you. And they're brighter?
Yep, brighter, they go higher, they last longer. But the thing that Nicole's talking about, as you're holding this up and it's burning, chunks of melted gnarly stuff are like coming off the bottom of it, and those can actually burn somebody or definitely put a hole through a Life Raft. So it doesn't make any sense to have a non-SOLAS flare inside a Life Raft.
Mess up my food.
What did he say?
He goes, mess up my... Okay, these are slimy for some reason. Really, really slimy. These are waterproof electric torches
That are slimy.
because the batteries are completely gone. We have a pump. How many of you have ever inflated your own dinghy while you're standing in the dinghy? How easy is that on a scale of 1 to 10? Like -3, something like that, if it's not a rigid floor dinghy? Imagine doing that in here, but especially when there's seas and the boat's moving and all the rest, pretty tricky, but at least it gives you hope. You have a chance.
Yep.
We have a whistle for if somebody fouls, like while you're playing a game inside the Life Raft to entertain yourself. You go, foul! Get the fuck out!
That's not very nice.
This thing catches the rainwater that comes down off the canopy. Anybody know what these are?
No,
Pro,
they're not.
amateur.
I was thinking for the nipples.
Day 1, day 3 for the nipples.
Yeah.
These are nipple cones. Is this where we lose all credibility? This is a serious topic, Life Rafts. So, you know, I'm looking around this Life Raft and there's not that much here. There's, you know, the pump and the sponges and a couple, you know, plug things. And that's about it, really. So, you know, the thought of actually surviving with this limited amount of supplies for any length of time seems almost impossible, certainly uncomfortable. It makes two things come to mind immediately. One, how important it is that you have an EPIRB or a PLB so that help can actually find you as quickly as possible. And two, that you need to have a good ditch kit so that when the boat goes down and you have to get in the Life Raft, you have enough supplies to make it even marginally more comfortable and certainly a lot safer. In fact, should we just show them ours?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is our ditch kit. This is way more substantial than what you would find in a Life Raft. And the contents of this ditch kit are in the show more notes down below. Now back to the Life Raft.
Okay, when you're in the Life Raft for an extended period of time, one of the things is you have to maintain morale. So in your ditch kit, you'll carry like, you know, a deck of cards is a good thing to have, some kind of book that you can doodle in or play some kind of like, you know, games with writing. But there's other things also that you can do in a Life Raft. And I think that one thing you'll see in our video that you will not see in any other video is a exploration of morale. So this is an example of what would not work in the Life Raft.
It's like a water bed.
But let's see what will. Okay. Now you're lying down and resting. Like, what does it feel like? Like, do you think you'd be able to sleep well?
No.
Especially if there's like waves splashing on you, right?
I see what's in your head.
We're gonna go down. Let's go down. This is slippery as fuck.
I know, it's super slippery and the floor is coming apart. Look at this. And you have to be careful with these. If you have these rolling around,
You might
you're gonna
end
make
up-
a hole.
You already have a hole. Oh, this is interesting. No, it's not.
It's for, oh, you just ruined our drinking water.
Now this is important because this raft is actually from a top manufacturer, like a very well-known brand, and this is one of their top-end models. It was out of service, and we didn't have a use for a 6-person, and thought this might be a video that could actually be useful for people. And also Nicole had never gone through Life Raft training, so we both wanted her to have a first-hand experience of what it's like actually in the raft. But it's been a while since I've gone through my training, my STCW, and we didn't have all this stuff in the raft when we did it, but man, it's like falling apart just from moving around on flat, calm conditions. I can't even imagine how careful you'd have to be in rough seas. If I had one takeaway lesson from just this experience in the pool, it would be to really reevaluate the reality of what it would be like living on a life raft, and to do everything you can to minimize the amount of time you'd have to spend reading little instructions and trying to find stuff. And that's all familiarity and review. The more that you are familiar with what's on board your raft and what you have in your ditch kit, and the more you practice that so that it's second nature, the less you're going to be sitting here in an baking hot raft in rough seas trying to read small print while you watch your boat go down. That might be the difference between whether you live or die. So, Nicole was poking, she's like, man, these things are sharp. You keep talking about it over and over again. The question is this something that could actually cause damage to the raft more than repair it? And if it does poke a hole, could it actually plug the hole also? Let's find out. Okay, so this raft is fairly tough. This thing does not poke a hole in it.
No, it doesn't.
How about the knife? So this knife is a razor blade. Oh no, there's a hole. Quick, plug it. Plug it with the stupid thing. Well, the good news is it does plug the hole. The bad news is it doesn't do anything.
I found the sea anchor. It's on the outside.
You found it?
Yeah.
Okay,
it
well
probably already just does its.
Oh yeah, it deploys automatically.
Oh, this is the line that's been in the life raft the whole time.
Let's demonstrate how you get into their life raft. What's the way to get into a life raft?
Hop up to it, step up to it.
Yes, good job. Thank you.
So your boat is sinking.
You should never, the theory is that the only way you should get into a life raft is when you're stepping up into the life raft, meaning you've completely lost your main ship. You can either pull it up alongside, get into it, you can jump in the water and crawl in, or you can actually jump onto the canopy and get in. But what's the benefit, Nicole, do you think, to staying dry while you get in this thing versus going into the water first and then?
So you're not so slippery. And hypothermia.
Yeah, there's a million reasons so you're not slippery. Nicole's reason is so you're not slippery.
So you're not slippery.
No, the reason is because if you get salty and wet and then you're lying in that for days after days, it can create all kinds of problems. So the idea is you want to stay as dry as possible.
Like staph infections on your butt.
Okay, yes, you can get staph infections on your butt.
I had that, all of you know that. That sucks.
You're like a 12-year-old.
I am not, you are.
You are. No, not you are. No, not you are. Most important piece of inventory by far for survival, and this has been proven time and time again. It doesn't matter the what kind of fancy food rations or the fishing tackle or all the rest. It's your mental attitude. If you have a good mental attitude, a survivor's attitude, you have a good chance of surviving, almost no matter what the conditions are. And that's really what it comes down to. So I think all this training and all this preparation and all this stuff, it's important, but it's all built on the foundation of your own mindset. So when you go to sea, take that with you and you'll probably be fine. That's pretty fucking good.
That was very good. I can't even top that. I can't say anything. That was excellent.
Hey, thank you for watching. If you thought this was really helpful or at least entertaining, please click the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and don't forget that notification bell. And for more Two Afloat exclusive stuff, check out our Patreon page.
Cheers.